COVID-19 and the widespread destruction it has wrought seems to have succeeded in distracting the nation from the ongoing destruction of lives and property by groups of organized terrorists operating on the northern reaches of Nigeria. In those parts, everyone calls them bandits. Even government officials are no exception with using that term. And that's the term increasingly being used to refer to a group of people who have visited untold mayhem and hardship on Nigerians, including rape and murder of women and children, destruction of farm holdings, and the rustling of thousands of cattle. Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari some months ago found himself in troubled waters when he, alongside a number of his officials, posed for photographs with a heavily armed bandit as he supposedly explored a solution to the growing insecurity. But now he wants out of the deal, having accused the bandits of not honoring their agreement. What could be the implication of this, and could there be a silver bullet to solve this problem? Joining us now to discuss this matter is Bishop C. Johnson, a former U.S. Army captain, national security strategist, chairman, and chief executive officer of CB Security Services and Consulting, Nigeria Limited. Welcome to the program. Good morning, Bishop Johnson. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Thank you for joining us on the morning show. Well, the governor of Katsina State, as I stated in the introduction, Governor Aminu Masari, has said the state government will no longer respect the memorandum of understanding that it signed with the bandits in that state, because those bandits refuse to respect the terms of the agreement signed in 2016. Should a state government have entered into any kind of a deal with bandits, or if you like, terrorists, criminals, as it were?
Thank you for having me here this morning, Dr. Abati, and your colleague who is there with you.
Yes,
Look, I've always believed that, I've always believed that sometimes you may have to negotiate your way out of certain security situation that you find yourself. But what is happening in northwestern Nigeria is not one of those instances where you have to do any sort of negotiation. And let me tell you, if you are negotiating with criminals, because that's what I call those people operating in Katsina and Zamfara State. These are a bunch of criminals who are running wild and who took advantage of the large vast of territory in that area, porous borders, and lack of adequate security presence to unleash harm and mayhem on innocent citizens. You don't have to negotiate with such people. What you do with such people is to punish those people severely, push their back to the wall, and put yourself in a position of strength. You don't do negotiations with criminals. Negotiating with bandits. Bandits are thieves. They're robbers. Negotiating with bandits means that you want to negotiate with armed robbers. You want to negotiate with kidnappers. These people have no established loyal chain of command. So whatever agreement you reach with them cannot be upheld. So it was a certain outcome that was expected. When I saw that on the news when the ongoing negotiation was going on, I knew that we are going to get to a point we are today, and that's where we are today, because these people are nothing but bunch of criminals that need to be decimated, arrested, prosecuted, put in prison. If there's going to be any form of negotiation, it has to be like a plea deal. When you arrest some of them, you have a plea deal with them that if they give you valuable, credible, and actionable intelligence that will lead to where the rest of the people are, then you can maybe reduce their sentence or give them some kind of soft landing. But you don't go into agreement with a bunch of, unorganized, no form of loyal chain of command, and you expect that they're going to uphold it.
Thank you. Now that that's settled, because I'm sure we've all heard that rhetoric, don't negotiate with terrorists, and you as an expert have confirmed that. But now that the détente is over, should we start from the fundamentals? In Dr. Abati's introduction, he mentioned the terminology, the use of the word bandit. Is that not sort of minimizing the impact and the level of devastation that is left by these people? What is the proper term to use? bandits, terrorists, or criminal, the more general term. And I'm not being pedantic. I do think terminology is important because in order to tackle a problem, you have to properly term it. That might be one of the reasons, one of the challenges that we're facing with getting rid of this problem. So what are your thoughts on that term, bandit?
You're quite on point on what you've just said right now. It's very, very important that you get the term right. I don't believe in that word use of bandit. These guys they're terrorists. I wouldn't be surprised that these are some elements of Boko Haram or ISWAP that are moving into that area and ransacking villages and setting them on fire. Until we get the proper term of what those people there are, we won't be able to solve the problems. The word bandit means thief or robber. Are they going there to steal from people's households? Or robbers don't intentionally go to burn down villages. But these people are burning down villages. The same modus operandi that we see in the Northeast being adopted by Boko Haram and ISWAP. So when we continue to use the word bandit, we're diminishing the mayhem and the sort of the group that is operating in that area. So we need to get the proper term, and the proper term should not be bandit. They should be designated as terrorist organization, or as has been applied on other terrorist organizations that are operating in Nigeria.
Well, Bishop Johnson, when you were saying that, the negotiation that Governor Masari entered into with the bandits was bound to fail, you said that there are exceptions. What are some of those exceptions where a government can negotiate with bandits or terrorists? Because we know that the U.S. government under Reagan at the point had to negotiate with Hezbollah. And also under President Barack Obama, there was an exchange of prisoners, Taliban prisoners in Guantanamo Bay in exchange for another person. What are those exceptions? What are the enabling conditions when you can actually negotiate with either terrorists or bandits or criminals?
Okay, now, the Nigerian, look, you do negotiations all over the world. The United States has done it. The UK has done it. Israel has done it. Nigeria has even done it right here in Nigeria. You negotiate in some instances. But for you to negotiate, you have to make sure that you have put yourself in a position of strength. You cannot negotiate from a position of weakness, because if you negotiate from a position of weakness, you are pretty much at the mercy of the person that you're negotiating with. And that is what appears to have happened in Katsina State and the neighboring states, is because we didn't do the underground work very well. We just rushed into negotiations because we have seen that negotiations are taking place in other parts of the country and other parts of the world. So we decided to rush into it without actually doing the heavy lifting that ought to be done. These people had to be fought in the first instance. Fight them until you push their back to the wall. They will even be the one asking for negotiations. In that time, you now give them the conditions for negotiations. But we didn't do that. And most times when you negotiate with groups, the groups that you negotiate with are groups that you can be sure that whatever agreement is reached can be, they can uphold that agreement. And those groups are usually groups that have like political or ideological causes that they're fighting. For example, what happened in the Niger Delta with the militants, we all knew they were fighting for resource control. An example, what is happening in the Northeast with Boko Haram and ISWAP, we know that they want to carve out a part of Nigeria as their own territory. So what is the objective of the people fighting in Katsina and the neighboring state? We don't know. So that is why I designate them as a bunch of criminals who are taking advantage of large vast of land in northwestern Nigeria, porous borders, and then lack of adequate security presence to unleash mayhem. Those type of people, you don't need to negotiate with them. If you're actually going to negotiate with them, it has to be them asking for that negotiation, and then at that point, you will now give them conditions for negotiations to take place.
Following on from that, is it also possible that there's some kind of nuance depending on the geographical location? Because Governor Masari was not the only governor that entered into this amnesty agreement with the bandits, or we keep calling them bandits. There was also Governor Matawale of Zamfara State, that's also northwest Nigeria. But in north-central Nigeria, Governor Abubakar Bello also met with bandits. What do you think of that?
Well, the same way I think of what is happening in Katsina State, you know, the negotiation in Katsina State was done in 2017, and the whole thing is beginning to unfold in 2020. I know that Governor Matawale just recently came into office. We have to watch and see, you know, how long his own agreement is going to last. Governor Bello, the same thing. You know, these people can't keep those agreements. They can't keep those agreements because there is no structure. There is no loyal chain of command where they are taking orders from. They are running haywire in the desert. Everybody is doing their own thing. So in that case, you can negotiate with one person today. The next day, another person unleashes mayhem on the community. So who do you talk to? They're not taking instruction from one particular structure, one particular commander. Everybody is on their own, doing their own thing. That is why negotiations cannot stand in those instances.
Well, Bishop Johnson, as part of the agreement in 2016 with the bandits in Katsina State, the government side of it was that a ban was placed on the vigilante group in that state, known as the Yankasai. What would you advise Governor Masari to do this time around? Should he automatically reintroduce the Yankasai, or he needs to talk to the regular security agencies, the police and the other arms of security forces to ensure security in Katsina State?
He has to do all. He has to do both. He has to reactivate that vigilante group, and he also has to talk to the security personnel operating in that area. I am somebody who has always believed that security is a local thing. I've always believed in state police. I believe in community policing. I even believe that police should be decentralized down to the local government, because nobody can secure you better than you can secure yourself. You cannot recruit someone in Borno State and you train him and you bring him to Bayelsa State to come and police Bayelsa people. It just doesn't happen like that. It has not been effective anywhere in the world. So the local people have to take their own security into their own hands. So what the governor needs to do is to reactivate that vigilante group, give them proper training and proper orientation, let them go out there and hunt for intelligence. Intelligence is the key to defeating this group. If you can get adequate intelligence or even infiltrate the group and get enough intelligence that will disclose their modus operandi, their planning, operational plans, and their movements, with that you can decimate them. The problem is that we are fighting blindly. It's like a doctor who is trying to treat an email without actually conducting any form of diagnosis. That is what is happening in these instances. We have to do proper intelligence gathering to understand the people we are dealing with. By the time we do that, we will discover that our job will be made much more easier. So what am I saying in essence? What I'm saying is that vigilante could be an intelligence gathering outfit for the state of Katsina that will be able to gather as much intelligence since they are local and provide to the security personnel to allow them be able to, take some actions against the so-called bandits or whatever we want to call them.
Okay, Bishop Johnson, let's take a short commercial break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. We're still with Bishop C. Johnson, a former U.S. Army captain, national security strategist, chairman and CEO of CB Security Services and Consulting Nigeria Limited. Mr. Johnson, before the break, you were talking about your belief in a local security operation and more intelligence gathering. I wanted to ask you, because we hear or we read about these awful attacks, and it's often a case that the marauders have hours-long killing sprees with no security agency coming in to interrupt them and to come to the rescue of the people who are under attack. And I wonder why. Why is that? Can you shed some light on that? Is it a function of the fact that we have this centralized police system? Can you shed some light?
Yeah, there are several factors why that is happening in Nigeria. And one of them is that we do have a centralized police system that does not have enough manpower. They don't have enough proper training. They have limited equipment. So they cannot be everywhere every time. And that is why some of us has been calling, because to be honest with you, the federal government of Nigeria alone cannot police Nigeria. The country is too vast, is too populated for 250,000 manpower police to police the entire country. And some of this, out of this 350,000 policemen and women we're talking about, majority of them are into executive protection. And so those ones right off the bat are not available to protect the citizens. So that is why some of us has been very, very, we've been very consistent in agitating for states to have their own police and take their own destiny into their own hands. Let me tell you, one of the tenets of democracy is that when you ask your people to go and govern themselves, you must allow such people to equally secure themselves. But that is not the case with our own democracy. That is not the case with our own structure of government, where we have asked states, go and govern yourself. But we have to secure you from Abuja. We have experimented this thing for decades, and it's been an abysmal failure. So it's time that we sit back and look at the security architecture of this country and restructure it in a way that we can protect lives and property of the people of this country. And the only way you can do it is to have enough boots on the ground. You can't have enough boots on the ground with the federal government funding policing or with only federal police. It just doesn't happen anywhere. If you go to the United States, for example, they have over 10,000 different police departments. And that is how they're able to secure their place. But here, we just have 350,000 police officers. Let me tell you, there are more police officers in the state of California with more funding and training than you have in the entire country of Nigeria. So how do you expect them to be effective? So part of the reasons why these bandits can operate in this large vast of land without any confrontation from security personnel is because they don't have, one, they don't have the manpower, they don't have the capability, so they cannot deploy to the scene of crime timely enough to protect lives and property.
Well, Johnson, many of these ideas that you have articulated about the gathering of intelligence, about state police, about putting more boots on the ground, these are all ideas that Nigerians have been talking about. Security architecture, review of security architecture. Even last year, a new roadmap was presented to the president. What are those factors making security sector reform so impossible in Nigeria? Because indeed, it appears like it's an impossible task. Why should that be the case?
Well, from my own observation, I've been following security issues in this country for the last 6 years. Even before then, while I was in the U.S. military, I will wake up in the morning. The first thing I do is to read news about Nigeria. Look, everything in Nigeria is politicized. Everything in Nigeria is tribalized. Everything in Nigeria is seen from the prison of religion. And so these are the factors that are, are preventing us from doing what is right for our country. Because people look at it, how is this going to impact my tribe? How is this going to disadvantage my people from my religion? So when you make policies or you make decisions based on ethnicity or tribe or religion, it's very difficult for you to actually take such positions because human beings are inherently, there's some level of bias that is built into human beings. So when you invoke those biases, you don't seem to do what is right because you look at the secondary advantage of what you're going to get from it because of the tribe that you belong or what religion you belong. And so for that reason, the common and collective good of the people is relegated to the background. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. If we can eliminate religion, tribe, politics, especially insecurity, you discover that we'll be able to do what is right for the people of this country, security-wise.
I hope we do get to that point. But while you were talking about the police and how short-staffed they are, I recall the NIS, the Nigerian Immigration Service, which according to 2014 figures are only about 22,000. And according to the same 2014 figures,
correct,
yes, Nigeria has between 70 and 80 legal approved border crossings, but in reality, there are 1,400 illegal crossings into Nigeria. You also referred right at the beginning of this conversation to our porous borders. I mean, that's why you had a case in Sokoto where this gang of 600 men on 200 motorcycles just showed up in broad daylight and murdered scores of people. We need to also talk about Nigerian Immigration Services reform. Where do we start with that?
I personally have written extensively on securing our border. Let me tell you, the primary source of insecurity in this country is from those northern segments of our borders. That's where these criminals are pouring in from. They are coming in from Chad, they are coming in from Niger, they are coming in from other Sahel region of Africa that are completely in turmoil. All these places, Burkina Faso, Mali, all these places are in total chaos. You cannot name any country surrounding Nigeria in that northern segment that is not in one chaos or the other. And we have been talking about this issue of border security for a while. That is where we are going to nip the board, is when we take our border security seriously. I have advocated for creating a separate department for border security. Hire more people. Look, that is the #1 objective of our government, protection of life and property of Nigerian citizens. What has happened is that the federal government of Nigeria has become a jack of all trades and a master of none. So because that is the situation, I have been one of those advocating for restructuring, where we reduce the responsibilities of our federal government and limit the responsibility of our federal government to such areas as security, so that it will have enough resources at its disposal to secure our territorial integrity. Look, our territorial integrity is not secured. The fact that somebody has not carved out a swath of land of our territory does not mean that our territorial integrity is secured. When you have citizens of other countries pouring into our country and unleashing mayhem on our citizens, you have not secured your territorial integrity. So I am advocating for a border security agency that their sole responsibility will be only for border security. And I'm equally advocating for places where we need to build fence, let's build fence. Areas that we cannot build fence, how to reach areas, let us secure those areas by use of technology such as cameras, drones, and stuff like that. Then areas that we can police, personnel can police, let's use humans and police them. But until we can secure the northern segment of our borders, we will continue to have these, cross-border problems that we have been having. And that is the bulk of the problem we've been having. If you go back in history, at the time of Mount Sinai or something like that, this guy wasn't a Nigerian. This is a guy that came into Nigeria from northern Cameroon and came here and created havoc in this country. If you look at Boko Haram, you see what Boko Haram is doing at their northern borders. They are running from one country to the other because there is simply no security at the borders of these countries. So if we want to get it right, we have to remove politics from it, because those borders are porous for reasons. People keep them porous because they benefit from them politically. So for that reason, they have asked the security to go to hell so long as they are benefiting politically from having porous borders in another segment.
Well, last year, the Nigerian government came up with what it called a National Security Strategy document. And we're told that that document will be people-centered. First, what's your assessment of that document, and why is it that since that document was launched, we have not seen any improvement in our security situation? Could it be as a result of the focus on COVID-19? Do you think COVID-19 has taken our attention away from the urgent challenge of national security?
Dr. Abati, I know that I watch you, by the way. You people are doing a fantastic job. I watch you guys every 9 o'clock, every day.
Thank you.
Dr. Abati, I know that you can walk and chew. I know that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I don't believe that our government should just do one thing at a time. Our government can fight COVID-19 and at the same time secure our borders. So using COVID-19 as the reason why we are not securing our citizens, to me, is completely unacceptable. I happen to have been, attended stakeholders meeting when that national security strategy was launched. And in that meeting, it was emphasized, because that is not the first national security strategy that we've had. There was one that was launched in 2014. That one collected dust, never got implemented. And everybody was emphasizing on the need for this one to be implemented. Let it not go the same way that the 2014 own went. But I am afraid that up till now, nothing has happened with that document. It is a fantastic document if we implement it, although it has its own shortfalls. The shortfalls it has is that it didn't assign, that there has to be assigned tasks. You assign tasks to certain agencies of government. Look, this is what you have to accomplish. Because if you don't assign those tasks to them, you will have no way of monitoring them. But what this particular one did was suggested to them what to do without a proper way of ensuring that they do it. I have been opportune to study the 2014 National Conference report.
Well, thank you very much,
it was
Bishop
about
Johnson.
890-something pages.
Thank you very much. That's all we'll be able to take, for this conversation with you. We thank you very much for coming.